Hello everyone, it is me, Phoenix Labs here, and today I'm doing a What's in the Box review of the Airfix 1/72nd scale Messerschmitt BF-109G6. Now the G6 was the late war variant of the 109, and I believe it included a new engine as well as a heavier armament. Now this mold originates from 2009, and in that 2009 box, it came with Finnish decals and also German decals, if I remember correctly. I was originally going to do a review on that one because those Finnish decals looked really nice and I thought that it was a cool paint scheme. But unfortunately, those ones are significantly more expensive, and thus I decided to do with the 2014 re-release of the same kit. This time it came with different German decals and Swiss decals. So, what are my opinions on Airfix? Airfix is a pretty cool company, and I have a lot of respect for quite a few of their kits. And for the longest while, I kind of thought of them as another Revell. They had lots of reboxed old kits with deceptively old build dates, I guess, or design dates. But Airfix recently has done a lot to clean up that image. They now include vintage classics on their boxes if their boxes are exceptionally old. And if you live in the UK, they also have these things called the Airfix Club, which is a thing that gives you lots of kits if you pay a monthly subscription. And they also do flying hours, which, if you do, I believe, if you get 5 kits and they come with a set amount of flying hours, with 5 of these, you can get yourself another kit, which is really cool. The only unfortunate bit is that you're going to have to mail those flying hours to Airfix, which, unless you're in the UK, that's probably going to be just as expensive as getting a regular kit. Alright, so what is actually in the box? I've already gone through this box to see what's inside of it. The decals weren't completely loose like they were like right now, and also came in a bag to protect all the sprues. The bag itself was actually a bit damaged when I got it, which was a bit odd, so I ended up removing it so I could check and see if any missing parts were missing, and there were none. So let's start with, let's start with the sprues because they're right here. Here we have a sprue that seems to contain the undercarriage as well as bombs in the pilot, and also the nose. These bombs aren't the most detailed things, and those extra 20mm guns, I believe, aren't the most detailed, but doesn't look too bad, especially for a 2009 Airfix. I recently built a Curtis Hawk, I think. Actually, no, they called it the Curtis Tomahawk by them. And I actually have it right here. That kit it has some fit issues, but they weren't particularly bad. But, you know, for a modern kit, having fit issues, especially if you're like a larger company like Airfix, that's kind of, I don't know, it's not really as acceptable unless you're like a really small company, because, you know, you have things like computers and all that to really map out everything and make sure things fit. So I had some slight fit issues with this thing, but ended up being a really nice kit, and I did a really nice job painting it. I really like this thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get the kit. It's actually a really nice one if you want a 1/72nd scale P40. But, sorry, I got a bit of a cough as of late. But yeah, let's get back to focusing on these sprues. We got what seems to be the underside of the wings as well as the tail fins, and also what looks to be the fuel drop tank and propeller. Now, you can see it quite well in this video, but Airfix, they love to make their panel lines really deep, which I really appreciate, to be honest. I know that a lot of people don't really like that, or a lot of modelers, because, you know, they're not usually this deep, but it does mean that you can be a bit thicker with your paints and stuff like that in case you need to repaint and stuff like that. So, I don't know, I really like it. It also makes panel lines a lot easier, so I personally like it. Not everyone does, but that's kind of just a personal thing. And here we got the final sprue with the fuselage of the aircraft and its two wings, which, as we saw earlier, are going to be glued onto that lower wing section that we had on this thing. Alright, so I just went ahead and used my snippers right here to cut the fuselage out so we can do a dry fit. I'm just going to set down my phone because I don't actually have a proper camera. Fit looks really good. It went together perfectly. No major gaps even in this dry fit. There is a little bit of excess sprue because of how it was located. You can't really see it on the camera because it won't focus, but on that upper bit of the fuselage there is... Come on. There we go. There's a little bit of damage that I took from the snippers. We also took some right there, but if you were a bit more careful than I was, you probably wouldn't have that, but to be honest, I was actually really careful. It's kind of annoying how that happens. Some filler cement, like literally just a little dabble of it, will fix that, so. But it goes together real nice. It's interesting how they decided to mold the entire engine as one piece as opposed to this P40 kit, which I can't remember off the top of my head when it was made, but I think it was around like 2010 or 2012, something like that. So a few years later, they made the engine like 5 or 6 different pieces, but on this thing it seems to be just one with all the exhausts already molded on there, as well as the guns. Very interesting. So, I'm going to quickly pull all these back. And we're going to move on to the decals, which I'm a little... They seem pretty nice. They've taken no yelling whatsoever, but this is still a relatively new kit. It's not even 10 years old yet. But, here, let's see. This is like the bottom. Let's see. Let's get on this so the camera can focus on it. So, up here we got the German ones, which, if the camera would focus, that is for Alphibuel Alfred Saru. Whoever the hell that guy is. Probably some German fighter ace, which you can do. It's got all the decals there, as well as the silly little eyes. In this corner right here, we have all the various decals that will be on both paint schemes. And here we have the Swiss one, which I'm a little disappointed with, but not all that much. Because, as you can see on the bottom... Actually, I could just... Airfix actually prints these out. Just give me a second. Airfix does provide in color examples of how to paint the model, which is incredibly useful. Fortunately, seems like they don't specify which company's paints those should be. So, you know, they might just be whoever's. One thing I did find a little bit annoying, and what I was hoping for, is I was kind of hoping that these like red sections on the wings, I was hoping that those would be decals too, but it seems those are just going to be the white sections. Which, it isn't bad, but it would be really nice if it was all red, because it's going to be difficult matching the same red to what's on these decals with a different paint. Especially if the paint is not specified, unless it's specified somewhere on the instructions later. But, yeah, no, I'm probably going to do this Swiss one right here, since it's definitely visually the most intriguing. And yeah, since we're looking at it, let's move on to the instructions. Instructions come pre-folded, but stapled like this. Now, the folding, I get, they're trying to fit in the box, but it also does it's a little bit tedious when you're opening it, and then it, like, bends in a weird way. Here we got all the warnings. There might be something here that says what paints they're supposed to use, but here we see that we start with the cockpit and the pilot, which I actually do want to paint the pilot in this one because he does look pretty detailed, and I've never painted a pilot before. Here we have the nose, which does seem to be able to spin. My P40 model can do that, but it's a little scuffed. I just reached over to spin it, but it's a little scuffed. Usually I just glue it in place, but making it be able to spin is actually really nice because even if you're not messing with it being able to spin, it makes it a lot less likely to break a propeller blade. So that's real nice. But yeah, it looks like they did the bare minimum when it comes to interior detail. It's literally just a seat with a guy. Not even a console for the pilot, it seems. Yeah, that is very bare minimum. These are also the older style of instructions that Airfix does. Their new ones that are like 3D modeled are, I don't know, they kind of make my eyes hurt after looking at them for a while because they're just a little bit too detailed. But, I guess that's just a thing for me. Here you can have the, wings, obviously, and then landing gear, canopy. Actually, we didn't look at the canopy pieces. That reminds me. This comes with 4 different canopies for some reason. And I'm going to guess that one of these is for opening. It says that, or for the open version. But it says the number 40, which I think is this corner one right here, yeah. I'm not sure about the difference in these. They are pretty similar. But, yeah, no, it doesn't seem like there's a option for a closed version. Options for whatever guns you want to put on there. And that's literally it. So, yeah, incredibly simple kit to build. So, what are my final thoughts on this model, just from looking what's inside of it? It's definitely a incredibly simple model kit. It's got a lot of good detailing on the exterior. As I said, it's got those deep panel lines, but it would have been a lot nicer if they included more interior bits for the pilot, maybe like the actual like control panel and like joystick and all that stuff. But that's unfortunate. The gun pods didn't look too good, but I'm not really sure how those are supposed to look. Decals were alright. I mean, Airfix decals, I've had pretty good experiences with them, but it's also, I know, it's kind of sucky that they didn't do the full length one, so that way you had that nice consistent color red, and you didn't have to match it. Overall, if you're looking for like a cheap, real easy kit to build, this is definitely up your alley. It is definitely a relatively cheap model. Though, to be honest, I mean, I got this one off of eBay, so the price isn't accurate, but I think the one I saw on Amazon recently was going for 20 bucks, maybe less, which 20 bucks for this it's not enough. You are definitely a lot better off spending 20 bucks to get a newer kit like this P40, which, I know I complained about the fit of the nose and stuff like that, but this P40 is significantly better than what you're getting in this G6 kit.